Hi, my name is Brittany Socia, and I'm going to talk about Jean Piaget stages of development. Piaget created one of the best known theories, the 4 stages of cognitive development. The first stage is sensory motor stage, which is birth to 2 years old. The second stage is pre-operational stage. It's 2 to 7, 2 years age to 7 years. The third stage is concrete operational stage, and it's the ages 7 to 11. And the fourth stage is formal operational stage, and it is 11 years to adulthood. The first stage I'm going to discuss is the sensory motor stage. During sensory motor stage, a child understands his or her own world through the senses and movement. During the latter part of the sensory motor stage, infants develop object permanency, which is the understanding that an object exists even if it is not within field of vision. An example of this would be a baby approximately 6 months old or so playing with a ball, and the ball rolls under a couch, under a chair, just out of sight. The baby realizes that the ball still exists even with it being out of sight. During this stage, a child may also begin to understand that his or her own actions could also cause another action. For example, pushing a button on a toy to make it sound. They realize when they push this button that this toy is making this sound, so they're recognizing their actions. They will push the button again to get that reaction out of that toy. The next stage is pre-operational stage. A child at this stage has a more egocentric view. The child in this stage views the world in his or her own perspective, in which the child is talking but interacting with another child, but not interacting with another child. An example of this stage would be a child looking at 2 glasses which have the same amount of water in it. If one glass of water is poured into a taller, more narrow glass, the child in this stage would think the taller glass would have more water. Alright, the next stage is concrete operational stage. And I'm teaching 4th grade math, so this is the stage of my kids. This is 7 to 11 years of age. And at this stage, it involves a mental task tied into concrete objects, and it's a more hands-on thinking. Thinking becomes less egocentric with increased awareness of external events and involve concrete references. An example of this hands-on thinking would be seriation. Seriation is the process of arranging objects in sequential order according to one aspect, such as size, weight, volume. For example, a child grasping the notion that B can be larger than A, but still smaller than C. A child at this stage will know when the water is poured that it is still the same amount of water. And the last stage is formal operational stage, and this stage is 11 years to adulthood. This stage is defined as a mental task involving abstract thinking and coordination of a number of variables. Students who reach this stage, according to Piaget, not everyone does. They are too able to think abstractly. Many students remain at the concrete level throughout their school year and even through adult years. People in this stage use many strategies and resources for problem solving. There are many ways to incorporate Piaget stages in the classroom. I'm mainly going to talk about the concrete because that's where I am. I'm fourth grade, so I have 9 and 10-year-olds. And incorporating hands-on activities in which students can experiment with objects will help them begin to make things work. Hands-on activities such as science experiments and crafting can help students discover the meaningful of concepts using previous knowledge and logical thought. I am going to use real-world experience and hands-on activity. I use it every day, but with the concrete stage, this is going to be very useful when starting measurements. And the one thing that I'm going to use is my students will use a glass liquid measuring cup to measure 1 cup of water. Then they will pour the cup into 2 half-cup measures. At this stage, my students will begin to make the connection that the same amount of water can be measured in 2 different ways. And this is how I will know if my kids are in the concrete operational stage or if they're still in the pre-operational stage. There are 4 main teaching implications drawn from Piaget's theory. One is to focus on the process of children's thinking and not just its products. Instead of simply checking for correct answers, teachers should emphasize that students' understanding and process they use to get the answer. Just watch the process instead of the process of the child's thinking instead of the answer. They may be on the right track, but not getting the right answer. The second thing is recognizing the crucial role of children's active involvement in learning activities. Children are encouraged to discover themselves through spontaneous interaction with the environment rather than presentation of ready-made knowledge. The third thing is de-emphasize practices aimed at making children adult-like in their thinking. This refers to what Piaget referred to as an American question, which is how can we speed up development. His belief is that trying to speed up a children's process through the stage could be worse than no teaching at all. So don't speed up there. If they're not in that concrete, like for me, example, my 9 and 10-year-olds, if they're not in that concrete operational stage, I don't need to speed up that stage. I need to go back to the pre-operational stage and work their way up. And the fourth is acceptance of individual differences in the developmental progress. Piaget's theory asserts that children go through all the same development stages. However, they do so at different rates. As teachers, we must remember this. Because of this, teachers must make special effort to arrange classroom activities for individuals and groups of children rather than the whole class. And this is why diversity in the classroom is so important. Kids do not learn at the same developmental stages. They all develop in their own rate. In conclusion, educators and future teachers must be aware of the stages that take place within their students in the classroom. It is also important to understand that social sources of an individual's thinking. A teacher must be able to relate to their children in his or her classroom at every cognitive level of the student's development. A key importance in teaching is knowing students and knowing how they learn. Especially in today's diverse classrooms, the teacher must be sensitive to her students' cultural background and language and be active participant in his knowledge construction. If students are having difficulties at the level of cognitive development that they are meant to have reached, the teacher should realize this and try to help them in any way possible. So don't speed if they're not in that operational stage that they should be in. Don't speed it up. Just help them. Be there for them. And they'll reach that stage when they're ready to reach that stage. And this is my bibliography. Thank you so much for viewing my presentation.